do you want? A Monero node? I see what you want to do. Yes, I can help you. Come in. You want to build PiNode for Monero? You just take pieces, whatever you have, whatever faults of truck. You take PiNode 3, PiNode 4, whatever you have lying around. You take SSD and you take adapter. I post you link which adapter you take because many not good quality. You take good one, otherwise all hell break loose. And you don't want Pi to go off the wrong time, okay? So you take this one, you plug it into your Windows computer, you flash immediately operating system on this thing. I show you how to do it. Let's go. I plug in hard drive, okay? SSD or NVMe, whatever you have or can find at home, I don't care. You can even do SD card 64 gigabyte only for prune node. We make do with what we have. Okay, next step. You take Internet Explorer or whatever fancy browser you have. You go to this website, Raspberry Pi Org software. You scroll down, download for Windows. There you click, there you run. You let it come up. So internet, go on. Hit start. You click. When it come up, you install. You run. You choose operating system, Pi other, okay? You need only light version, 32-bit, small one, for fast. This one you take your hard drive. This one in my case, Samsung one, I found. Don't want to tell you where, okay? It's small, actually, it's small. Take bigger one. Blockchain is already about 110 gigabyte, I don't know. It will soon be bigger. If you're buying new part or have other lying around, take 200 or more. This one is already at capacity, but better one node than no node. You go on, you ride on it, yes. This is fast as has to be, okay? SSD is fast. If you have only HD lying around, you can use, but it will be slow. It will be slow for writing this. It will be slow for syncing blockchain. If you do not have blockchain on other computer you want to sync, hard drive is going to drive you mad, okay? Other thing, as I said, adapter. Make sure to use right adapter. I would put link down there, otherwise your system will blow up. Don't do it, okay? This step is done. Now next step, you can close Raspberry Pi imager. For me personally, after flashing, drive did not show up. You need to unplug, plug back in again, okay? Okay, there we go, came up already. Next step is setting up SSH. So you can use your computer to SSH directly into the Pi. Of course, you can skip this step if you use keyboard and screen, but I will be honest, it's a little bit not so manly, okay? So set up SSH if you can. So in new version of Windows, you go for new, you go for text document, and you write SSH and you delete the end, okay? It's important, it does not have file ending, otherwise not going to work. You say okay, then this one will show up like that. If you're running older version of Windows, I will also show you, okay? On the older version of Windows sometimes cannot show the extension and will not allow you to delete just like this. In that case, you go to start, you write CMD. You see the CMD command line. You go to the folder of the car, E. You say rename, you say ssh.txt and just make it to SSH without an ending, okay? You click enter, that's it. You see the file down here, it changed already, you are ready to go. You can now eject the hard drive and boot it inside your Raspberry Pi. Do not forget to plug the Ethernet cable in because you want to be able to access, okay? We're going back to Pi. Okay, we're back in the closet. Okay, you take your Pi 4, this one is a Pi 4, 4 gigabyte, perfect for a node, runs smooth like a kitten. If only thing you can find is Pi 3, you take Pi 3, has less RAM, takes longer to compile, but eventually will run a node, don't worry about it, you just take what you find, we make do. Okay, here's the hard drive, SSD, you plug in, bam, there we go. You take Ethernet cable, bam, here you go. You take power cable, let me see which one, this one. You plug in, bam, there we go. You see activity, fan on, this one adapter on, we are good to go. You wait for it to boot for a minute, you go back to the computer, let's go. Back on our lovely Windows computer. Now what we need to do is to find out what is the IP address of our router. If you do not know already, you can find out by going to command line again. You type cmd, you go right click and run as administrator. You land here in administrating. If you're connected to the same router as your Pi with Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi, you can type ipconfig. You will see all of the gateway and LAN and wireless and whatever you all have. I'm connected with wireless, so I will know my default gateway. This is the router, okay? Because I'm on wireless LAN. So, knowing that there is a Pi address somewhere behind the number 1. If you can, ideally you go straight to NMAP. NMAP. Right here I show you again in my trusty Internet Explorer, which I just downloaded newest version of. You go to this website, NMAP downloads, okay? You go here, you go to stable release self-installer, you click, you run. Take a bit, internet is slow where I'm from. Okay, and go. You click run, you click OK, you click agree. Oh my god, I don't know what all of this is. It's okay, install, yes. Okay, complete. You click next. We don't need. Away. Next. Has been installed. Very good. Fine. Finish. You can close the website. Now type nmap -sn and the same gateway like I show you here in wireless LAN adapter Wi-Fi default gateway. This is your router, and somewhere behind is going to be the Raspberry Pi. You type this IP 121 and then /24. Don't ask me why, just do. You click enter, it will do a proper scanning, something that is not really doing well. It takes way too long, not a nice tool. You take Nmap, you're much better suited for this kind of scanning, and it will also tell you what devices these actually are. Huh? Blia, this is a lie. Aye. Here you learn to not trust anyone. Do it again. There we go. Here you see, this time it's lying to me, just shows my own computer. Next time it shows, here's a Raspberry Pi. On which IP is it? On this one. 192.168.254 in my case, okay? Your case is going to be different. But this is the address we will now SSH into. You can close CMD. Okay, next thing is connecting with SSH. There is native SSH in command line, but on Windows, there are better tools, a little bit more convenient. One tool is called Putty. Putty, okay? Not to be confused with Putin. Putin is not for free. This is the website in my trusty browser. Putty and softonic.com. I put link down below. You click on download. You wait, you click, you wait, you click. As many times you need. You run. Let it show notification. No, go away, run. Now, back, setup wizard, Putty, install, Putty, install, Putty, install again. Okay, don't need readme file, finish. There you go, you can close your trusty browser. Now you click up, Putty, you start. Hello, there we go. Hostname is the IP address of your trusty Raspberry Pi. It was, what was it again? It was this one. Okay, port 22 is fine. We don't need save session or anything. You can just click open. It will say, I have not connected with this device before. Is it safe? Do we really know? We don't know, but we will just say yes anyway. You click OK. You see login as? That's a good sign. It means your Pi is answering to you, okay? So, the standard password and username combination for Raspberry Pi on Raspberry OS or Lite or whichever version you have of those is Pi as the username and Raspberry as the password. We will do this. Login as Pi, P-I, enter, okay? Password is Raspberry. Enter. Ah, there we go. We're talking with our trusty Pi. We've now logged in successfully into the little machine without screen or keyboard. Okay, we're now successfully inside the Raspberry Pi. It is right now running Raspbian OS. We want to write over it with a PiNode software. You go to github.com Monero ecosystem PiNode XMR. I will put the link below. This one is maintained by Sherman100 like a god, okay? You should read what he has to say here. If you don't, you will mess everything up like I did in the beginning, but what can I say? Okay, you go down to installing, right? Right here, Raspberry Pi, there is the link for the software. You click it. You go back to Putty. You right click. In this case, that means copy paste. I don't know why. That's not typically the SSH commands you have on Linux, but Putty, it works like this. Okay. So it asks you which version of what is going on. It asks you which version of operating system you're running. You are on a Raspberry Pi. You click enter and it will do its thing. You just wait. This can take a while, and at that point it will restart. It will now block the user Pi and Raspberry, and it will rechange it to a user called PiNode XMR, and the password PiNode XMR, where Pi and Node and XMR are all capitalized, as you see here on the screen. Everything is now installed and the device will reboot. You click OK. It tells you again, don't forget the new password is PiNode XMR and PiNode. Now, of course, the remotes are closed because the Pi is rebooting. So we can close this Putty session. We can close the browser. We wait for the PiNode to start again. In the meantime, you write Putty again. You want to connect to the same device. You put the same IP address in there once again. As soon as the PiNode has booted up, give it 30 seconds or something, you can click in again. Okay, enough time. Let's see. Login as, nice. It's already back alive, our Frankenstein. Login as, this one is now PiNode XMR, and the password is Pi with a capital P, small I, capital N, small ODE, capital XMR. Enter, okay? And it is taking shape. Now the downloading process that is coming is going to take a while. Depending on what Pi you're running, it can take 4 to 8 hours. On a Raspberry Pi 4, rather 4. On a Raspberry Pi 3, it rather takes 8 hours. If you use the operating system straight from an SSD like we did this time, skipping the SD for dual boot, it will probably be faster, but it will still take a while.
So we click OK and then fast forward, otherwise I'm running out of vodka before this is over.
Good. Выровнять не надо чуть-чуть. Кати, не бойся.
So it's a bit ironic. After about 20 minutes, PiNode XMR said that PiNode was ready. 20 minutes is not possible. It's too fast. So something went wrong.
So let me repeat this. After you see this screen, it tells you the click enter and you restart the Pi. If you log in again with Putty, you're supposed to see this screen. If you do, perfect. Skip this section. If you don't, and you see some kind of error message, then you have the same error as me. Then continue with this. So it's a bash home PiNode XMR setup sh. No such file or directory. What I know now, setup process fucked up. Okay? And the message that it was finished is wrong. So what I did not catch this proper in video, but I just show you picture. What I did is I looked at the directory with ls for list. Show me the file. Okay, it has 5 files. I can see from those selection of file it is Raspbian -PiNode XMR.sh, the shell script that is supposed to run the setup process. It didn't run proper, it's no problem. We will just run it again manually. What you do is you type /Raspbian -PiNode XMR.sh. You click enter, it will run the script again. Whatever it did already, it will just skip. It says it's done already, and it will continue with the process.
Later.
So we're now halfway through, and if you see something going on with building CXX object, you're on the right way. Keep going strong, okay? This is almost over.
Eventually.
Okay, Tovarish, as you see, we are done with this. Finally, you click enter and let the Pi restart. You close the window. Start Putty again. Put in IP again.
And there we go. Login PiNode XMR. Password same as before. There we go. This is what it's supposed to look like. My friend, we're almost done to your Kalashnikov buying capital control sidestepping super device. What you see here is the settings menu of the PiNode XMR. If you see this, you did your job well. The first of the option would be to bring you directly to the command line of Linux if you know what you're doing. But we will be doing the other steps first to set this one up in a way that makes it more secure for you. Let's look into Raspberry config anyway. We will be taken to Raspberry menu. System options. Do we want to configure anything? Wireless LAN you only need if you are not using your Ethernet cable. Audio not important. Password, do change the password for the PiNode XMR user because you don't want anyone from the outside to be able to access your account. You can also change the name here. The other options are not important. Display options, you probably need none of these if you're not using a screen. Performance options, here is if you wanted to overclock your device, but for a PiNode this is not necessary. Localization options, here you go and set your Wi-Fi country. Whatever your country is, you configure it right here so that your Wi-Fi will properly work. You can also set up your language, your time zone, and if you need to use a keyboard, install it here. Advanced options. If you just use SD card for dual boot and you use external USB device for your blockchain, this one is less important, but it does not hurt, just do it. If you do it, you will see partition has been resized and the file system will be enlarged upon next reboot. This is not yet, okay. Other options here, not important. Update, you can also go here. What you will see is the Pi just updating itself. This is not the PiNode, this is Raspberry config. But update is never a problem, you just let it run. After that it will return to Raspberry config. Okay, this is basically all you need to do here. You go back, finish, and you're back in this system. As you see here, there is more system setting. What you also should change is master login password set for your SSH login. This one is very important because you don't want anyone else to control your Pi from a distance, okay? Change this password and write it down. If you're like me, you will forget after 5 minutes. Just write it. I will not do, but you do it. Other point. Monero RPC username and password setup. This one is if you want to log in via your wallet software, for example on your phone, and you want to use as a private node. A private node needs RPC username and password setup. You can set it right here. You then also need to set same password and setup in your wallet, for example Monerod or Cake, if you use your own node as the external node, which you definitely should. That's kind of what it is for. However, you don't need to set this if you are using RPC free mode for public access, so that everyone can use your node as a node. Now, if you ask me, that's what you should do, because it's for strengthening the network and it's for helping everyone, but it's your choice, okay? You do what you want. Now, if you're using SD card as booting device and you're using SSD or NVMe as blockchain device, you need to set up USB storage here, because SD will only boot from itself and it needs to understand that blockchain is coming from USB device. What this does is it will actually make the boot process mount the USB device over the Monero IMDb blockchain folder so that the blockchain is put right into the folder where it's supposed to be, although it is actually on external USB device. If you're using USB device external and you're not booting from it, use this option. The last option is SD card health checker. If you use very slow SD card and you're trying to actually run blockchain on the SD itself, you should make sure with this tool that your SD card is fast enough. Because if this tool says your SD card is absolute crap and you're trying to run proper node software and blockchain on your SD card, you will have a bad time. Back to the menu. In terms of update options, you have all 4 options here to go from the most basic system packages and dependencies to Blockchain Explorer, to on top of that is PiNode XMR, to on top of that is Monero itself software. Occasionally you need to update this. You can start right now with system package and dependencies, cannot go wrong. Whether you use Blockchain Explorer is your thing. PiNode XMR you should also update right now. Monero, it depends, you can try right now, but it will tell you in the software whenever Monero has another version coming out that you need to update. Right here is where you can do it. Because it takes a while, I will not do it right now, but it is good to do from here. Last points, node tools. You can start stop blockchain explorer here. If you are intending to set up PiNode, which is only advised if you have very small SD card or very small external USB blockchain storage device, you can set it up from here. Ideally, you always run full node. If you have the space, run full node because you have all of the information of the blockchain ready for everyone that wants to access it, whether it be you or whether it be the public, because you're a very nice guy. Here is also pop blocks, which means if your blockchain syncing is not working proper and you have the feeling that the last few blocks might be compromised, you can go here and pop blocks to see whether syncing process of blockchain is going to pick up again. Go back, main menu, extra node tools. Now here, this is a bit more advanced. It depends on what kind of node you want to set up. If you want to set up node via Tor, or whether you want to set up I2P, or whether you want to put in VPN in the middle, if you choose to do these options, it is right here. I will for now only go on and show you normal main node. Okay, these are the options. You can, if you want to check on the Linux end, behind what the node is doing, you can go right into the command line here. I will show you a few commands at the end of this video to show you how your node is doing and whether processes are working fine. For now, we will go to the web end of the node, which is the beauty of it, because you can control basically everything right from there, not even needing SSH anymore. You can right now you go on with your browser. You can go back right to your trusty Internet Explorer. I'll just use this so that Microsoft statistics show one other use case than just downloading Chrome or Firefox. If you put in the same IP of the PiNode that you before put into SSH program and you go to enter, suddenly you see, oh my god, beautiful web front end of your new PiNode. Here is the face of it. You see your Frankenstein is alive. What you have as option here is, of course, you donate to the project. Other options, node status. Your node right now not running. You haven't started yet. Luckily, you can see hardware usage. What you see here is your drives and how full they are. In this case, my hard drive does not have blockchain synced yet, so it is still empty, but it is a little bit small for blockchain syncing, I will tell you that. You can see temperature stats, everything good. You can see here that I actually lied to you, and this is a Pi 8 gigabyte, but I'm running my actual node on a Pi 4 gigabyte. I just have way too many of these devices and I don't want to tell you where I got them. Okay, to start your node, you go to Pi node control. This is node control. Here you see overview of different nodes you can set. Number one is private node. Private node requires RPC login, meaning it requires the username and password RPC that you set before in order to use this one as external node for your wallet software on computer or on your phone. If you're a really good guy and very manly, very strong, and you can fight bear with one hand, you're going for public node. Public node gives free external RPC access to the world, okay? This is really strengthening the network. For this, you need to make sure to open port 18089 on your router. We will go there how this works in case you don't know yet how to set up port forwarding. Other nodes existing is RPC Pay version, not really yet implemented, but it will be in the future possible to make payment for node usage possibility. Other option, mining, not so important on Pi, it's not going to work very well. If you can fight bear with one finger, you might even go as far as to get into Tor node or I2P node. Last comments on global settings. Right down here, you have network setting and swap file enable disable setting. Network settings. Here you can set upload, download speed, in, out peers. Usually you don't need to limit any of these settings. You can actually increase upload speed from default settings if you have bandwidth and you want to provide to network, which makes you strongman. This is very good. Everything else setting down is usually only for testing purposes. If you have more than 2 GB RAM memory, you can actually disable 2 GB swap file. Especially if you're using SD card, then 2 GB swap file is going to be on SD card and does lots of I/O processes which will deteriorate SD. If you have Pi 4 GB like me or 8 GB because I lied to you, you can definitely disable this and decrease amount of write processes because not necessary. You can do this here. If you want to ever shut down the Pi, do it properly from this section. If you use this button, you might blow up the Pi. I'm not sure, I've never clicked it. Instead of using SSH, you can actually now use in-browser web terminal SSH session. I click, Microsoft tries to turn me back because they don't trust my skills. But they don't know what else I've built. This is the least dangerous of them all. I go to web page, I click. Here you now see PiNode XMR login, same as SSH before. If you type here, same as what you know, PiNode XMR.
And that great new password you have set.
you will actually come to same window. Very convenient. You can do this. Sometimes does not work as well as normal SSH, but normally most settings you can do from here very conveniently. I go back out. I click backwards. Yes, I want to leave. Block Explorer would work if you started it before. I2P interface depends on whether you're using it. IP2Geo shows you a nice map of node distribution worldwide, and log should show you what your Pi is doing throughout the day. But coming to the most important part, let's start the node. We are going to public node. We said start public node. Start command has been sent. You can see here on node status after a few minutes what the current sync height is of your node and whether there are connections going in or out. Optimally, at some point, these two should be higher than 0. If not, we need to open port forwarding on your router, and we'll explain how to do this soon. You can pause and have a look at this very simple summary of what the user interface items mean. In many cases, your node will now run fine. In just as many cases, 1 or 2 additional tweaks are necessary. For example, if you have any of the following non-standard but very common concerns. Do you have a blockchain on another device and want to transfer it in instead of resyncing from scratch? Do you get no incoming connection and need to open your router ports? Do you need to learn some commands to analyze how your node is doing and find possible error? And last but not least, do you want to see what a well-running versus bad-running node looks like and fix the main cause of errors, which is a tweak for USB adapter? That's great, because those are the next few sections. If you need none of this and your ports are open, then congratulations, you're done. But even if not, you finished the biggest part of the build. You did an amazing job. Okay, enough fun. We don't want neighbors to think we have good life because we're laughing. Okay, so if you don't have blockchain on other device, skip this section. This is if you have blockchain on other device. If you do, and you want to transfer to your PiNode, you take software called WinSCP. WinSCP is software to transfer file via SSH from your main device, hopefully Windows computer. Otherwise, you need to switch to whatever device you have your blockchain on, and you send to Raspberry Pi via SSH. Software you can find on this website, winscp.net. If you speak English, use English and download. Good. You go to website, you download. You click, you direct download, you run, you install. Good. You run. This away. Yes. I have already installed, so for me it should upgrade, but for you, you just follow installation process. Very nice. We don't... yes, we want launch. We don't want getting started page. Okay, there we go. Very nice. So, just like before, this is similar to SSH, but have file transfer installed. So you again take your IP address you know already. In my case, that was this one. You have your own, which you found with trusty NMAP. You log in with username PiNode XMR, and you choose another password that you now need to use. Okay? Do not forget to change your password, otherwise I will make you my botnet. Okay, connect. Now, important step, both on your own computer as well as on the Raspberry Pi. The folder necessary for blockchain is hidden. So we go up here, preference. We go panel, we click show hidden file, check mark yes, click OK. Now you can see standard installation folder for Monero GUI on Windows computer. We'll put blockchain into folder C program data, bit Monero, and there LMDB. You click, you have data MDB. On the other side, on your Raspberry Pi here, right side, folder is .bitmonero, LMDB. There is already my little bit synced blockchain in here. If your node is stopped, you can delete whatever initial part of blockchain you have already downloaded. Don't need anymore. Are you sure? Yes. Now I will transfer over. In my case, this is dummy file. This should be 110 gigabyte. This one is not. Forget about it. I will drag drop. There we go. About an hour, maybe two later. Magic. There we have blockchain in form of data MDB file, about 110 gigabyte transfer to your PiNode. Perfect. So, if you close WinSCP and you go back to your trusty browser and you look at PiNode, you can reload the browser. You will now see that your hard drive is used much more than before. This is why I told you take one bigger than 128 gigabyte, because even with blockchain and operating system on it, this one is already at 86% capacity. So buy 200 or more gigabyte for your PiNode to be happy in future. This is it. Blockchain is now on it. You can now start your node again and see whether you have incoming connections. If you start, you have positive connections on both incoming and outgoing connections, then you are done. Congratulations yet again. If you don't, then we see you in next chapter about port forwarding. Port forwarding. If you have 0 incoming connection, you need to open your ports. Now everyone has different router, so this is non-standard case. You need to check in your router manual how port forwarding works. But even then, port forwarding is confusing because routers from different countries and really bad translations make every mask different. So I will try to generalize. I made little overview. Look here. If you have a router and your PiNode, you can see that you need to open first the connection between your router and your PiNode. Now I take this kind of exemplary mask from what it roughly looks like on ASUS. I will show, for example, my own configuration soon after. Usually there is configuration for a name, just take something that you can identify. If there is any field for external IP, it means if you want to specify one specific external IP from the outside. In this case we are Node, we are open to everyone. Leave it blank if field exists. If you have port or port range field, it can be one field, can be two. It can be that one is mandatory or both. If you have only one mandatory field, just write 18080. If you have two and you need to specify is mandatory, you'd write same number twice. Local IP means IP inside of your network behind a router, which means in this case your PiNodes use the same IP for this one that you use for SSH login. The local port that you want to forward is the same, 18080. Protocol being used is optimally both. In ASUS case is called both categories, both meaning TCP and UDP in one. Some other router might call different. See here, for example, what correct forwarding looks like for RPC3. If you have done this, you can run your node again and see whether you have incoming connections. It is possible that this solves your problem and you are done. If you have other devices before router, such as other modem, like fiber modem if you are from fancy country, or you have a network hub with firewall, you might need to configure this one too. In that case, I have other exemplary. You need to open the connection between a modem and router. In this case, what is important is that the configuration of the forwarding menu is always specifying opening towards the next device in line, not immediately from modem to PiNode. So in my case, for example, have modem, different brand, have different name for same thing. This one, instead of name, call mapping name. Same, you just call PiNode 1 or PiNode blockchain because this is blockchain port. Instead of port range, this one called external port number. Okay, and this one has two mandatory field. I just write same thing then. Now local IP, this one called internal host. I don't know why, but just give you example of what it could be called. In this case, here you do not configure Raspberry Pi IP. You configure IP of next device in line, which is router. Router IP goes here. Please look at tip on the right side to find out which one is right router IP from perspective of modem. Internal port number is same, 18080. If you need to write second one, write number again, no problem. Protocol, just as on the right, it is also TCP and UDP. Now, you need to set the rule, refresh the page and see whether the rule is still there. Some router has apply button or is weird to set. Just make sure rule is being listed. If when you're done with it, second rule is on both devices, depends on whether you use private node or public RPC node. For public RPC node, you should use restricted RPC port, which is 18089. You set both those rules in either on your router or both devices if you have to. And you should have incoming connection. This topic is about finding out how the node works in the background and troubleshoot if you have problem. So, when we look at our trusty web UI, you can see all the information here. This is a very good overview of the basic information of how the node is doing and how it is running while it is running well. The interface is made to give you good overview and to give you easy button instead of complicated command you need to write in command line to run node properly. So while it is running, this is the best place to look at. Problem is, while it is not running well, this interface is not made to tell you much about what could be problem in background. So it is good to be able to have a view under the hood. If you have problem, please make sure that first thing you check is stupid problem. Stupid problem, things like need to wiggle hard drive a little bit and reboot. Give it a Russian fix, you know, with boot. Or you just need to restart once or twice, sometimes to solve problem. Try this trivial thing first, okay? Other thing that happened is, for example, forgot to turn on JavaScript for browser. Web UI will not show properly. I think things broken. Nothing broken. I just need to click button. Okay, but after that, if you want to look at under hood of what is happening in Linux, we go back to our Putty, trusty Putty. I started already. When you log into the node, you come to this window as usual. You click to exit to command line. You click. My favorite command of them all is htop. HTOP. HTOP is like task manager, task explorer for Windows. It shows you what is happening. It shows you how is your CPU and memory doing. It shows you which processes is running and how much they consume in terms of your resource. As you can see here, monerod is running. Our node is active. And you can also see which parameter is given to monerod for running. So for example, parameter like the ports you've configured or the bandwidth you have allowed for the node to be used. You can see here. If you go to htop setup, you can add additional parameter to be shown to you, such as I have here added disk write and disk read category. There you can see is hard drive being used. Disk write in this case shows you very well is activity really going on or not. This for me good indicator. This for me also good indicator to find out if, for example, process has crashed, because it will not look like it usually does. So you can find out many things from here. You can also find out, for example, if you click button in web UI that says start node, stop node, and these kind of things. You look here, you know if it's happening or not. Now, other command that is important. If you get back out of htop with Ctrl+C, while you're running your operating system and node from one hard drive, you will realize quickly if this hard drive has problem, because it will crash completely if hard drive is not connected proper. But if you boot from SD and hard drive is malfunctioning, you might have the web UI run proper, but show you very weird errors and hard for you to identify. So what you can, for example, do to find out whether hard drive is connected is command ls-usb, which shows you which connected devices are on USB in general. You can use ls-blk to look at which partitions are booted, and the one command that the node itself is actually using to check for how much your drive are already used, how much space is left, and so on, you will find under df space -h. At this point you can also see why it is not good idea to use 128 GB hard drive. You can see this one 98% full, can forget for further use. If you, for example, see here that your hard drive is detached while you've been running node and you had huge problem, you know why that is. Your blockchain is gone. Maybe your adapter is bad, maybe your hard drive is bad, maybe something is going on in the kernel. We will find out. Let me clear this first. Okay, here comes the ultimate for hardware logging, okay? If you want to look into what is going on in kernel, we have command called dmesg, D-M-E-S-G, D-M-E-S-G. If you click, you can see your kernel buffer output, messages of buffer of kernel. This one often points at error if you have any kind of error. It will show you from boot chronologically what is going on. It will show you which kind of hardware you have, how it is booted, that it is booted, which drive is on what, which is on USB what, and so on. This one has a lot of information, but also a lot of information on if things go wrong. What you can see here, for example, is there are a few errors which are not necessarily essential, and then there are other errors, especially after boot has happened. Here you can see that boot is, for example, roughly 30 seconds long. Everything was right. Usually there is a large gap, and at some point if something goes wrong, such as here, you can see all of these entry, something is wrong, is because I boot drive with incompatible USB adapter. You would, for example, find problems like this here. You can see here SDA is my booted drive, something wrong with it. It starts now, reset super speed generation 1 USB device number 2 using something else, because this one is bugging out. I have been looking for this error for quite some while until I found that USB connector, the adapter to SATA SSD drive, is that one. Does not work very well. Here this problem would show up, possibly will blow up in Web UI very soon. This is an example of where you would find out, okay, I need to use other adapter, or I need to, for example, plug it in USB 2. This is the best place to find out if you have errors. Just shows, if this just shows you until about, let's say, 30 seconds max, all kinds of data, afterwards nothing, usually everything is okay. This one is a good source of information. This is powerful tools for you to find source of problem if you have any kind of hardware problem. That will in Web UI only manifest in weird errors that are hard to identify, but here you can look under the hood to find what your problem is.
Last chapter.
Adapter. Sneaky little adapter. No matter what adapter you bought, you should check out this section. And if you have skipped the last section, you should check it out too, because it contains many commands you will need for this one, and explain what they are for. But now you ask, Alexei, you told me to buy compatible adapter, so I did. Why do I need to tweak compatible adapter? It's because there are two different problems to fight. At the end of last section, I showed you what it looks like with adapter incompatible for Raspi in general. As you saw, it may immediately blow up in DMESC, or trick you by behaving well for a few hours and then unexpectedly blowing up in your face, like Oksana. There is some sort of controllership problem. What you see now is another problem that monerod, our Monero node software, has with UASP adapter, at least on Raspberry Pi ARM version. Long story very short, it doesn't like super speed data transfer. It's like Russian government worker. For many adapters, we need to switch from so-called UAS driver to USB storage driver. Let me show you on HTOP what it looks like when adapter is either a natural talent and has no problem, or when you switch UAS off. It will look normal. Okay, so again, you SSH into your Raspberry Pi, you go to the command line and you type HTOP. This will bring you to HTOP. Look at this here, you're seeing HTOP. I have added via the setup the disk write and read write function. I then started my node via the web UI. Now if you do not have the disk write and disk read categories, look here. You press F2, you go to the settings to make new columns. You go to columns, and then you can see the two categories that I added here, IO write rate and IO read rate. If you don't have, you go to available columns on the right, you go very far down. You see the two there at the very bottom, you click F5 to add them, and when you're done, you click F10 to get out. Then you have those two columns. Now you can compare with what it looks like on my machine. What you can see here is the monerod process has many sub-processes in green. They are quite active. You see them reading at several megabytes per second, and you see them writing at a few kilobytes up to a few megabytes per second, depending on what they are doing. The other thing you can see is that at the top, the CPUs are used, and most of the CPU usage is green. This is what it normally looks like. This means your PiNode is writing blocks and sharing data with the network. Now let me show you what it looks like if adapter is compatible with Raspi in general on hardware level, but needs UAS switched off to work with Monero software. What you see here is again HTOP. If I start the node via the web UI, what I see is usually the main process, monerod, starts quite slow. It does not really quickly spawn the sub-processes in green here. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. If it does, then it takes a while. Then what you also see here is that one of the processes is reading like crazy. 320 megabytes, 340, 350, it is reading. But it's almost writing zero. not doing anything. If you look into Monero D logs, first it has problem with finding blockchain, then with P2P server initiation, then with something RPC server, and so on and so on. You see many weird errors there. This is based on UAS problem. I now show you how to solve. So to tweak your adapter, we will go back to our trusty Putty. You have used it many times now already to log into your Pi with the IP you know, and you will land here. You click OK for going to command line. In order to find out what your adapter's ID is, you type LSUSB. Here you see the devices connected via USB to the Raspberry Pi. In my case, the adapter is number 1. You can select this part and copy it with Ctrl-Shift-C. Okay? Now we're going to type sudo nano /boot/command-line.txt. Just a tip for Linux in case you didn't know. If you write the first few letters of a file or folder that exists and you press tab, it will autocomplete, which makes coordination in Linux much faster. Okay, as soon as you type this, you click enter. You see the command line file. This file contains command of how the Raspberry is supposed to boot. Now we will add one entry. I wrote down here how to type, so it's easier for you to see. Write USB minus storage dot quirks QUIRKS equals. There needs to go your adapter ID. You can paste with right click in Putty, and then you need to add at the end :U, then a space, and then the rest of the file. No line breaks, okay? Definitely no line breaks, very important. Then you click Ctrl X to exit. It asks you save. You type Y for yes. You just enter for the same file name. Done, okay? Now you reboot. Sudo reboot. Make sure your node is not running the whole time, of course. As soon as you rebooted and logged into the Pi again, you can go into dmesg, dmesg, and go up. You can now see in your USB devices, somewhere is your adapter. It is right here. I plug it into USB 2.2. This is my adapter. And here UAS is now ignored for this device and it uses USB storage instead. If you did it wrong, it would still show SDA UAS. It would show it is running with UAS. So here it's ignored. Now it basically slowed the adapter down, but don't worry, it's still very fast. Very fast enough for a node, no problem. This makes almost any adapter that did bug out before compatible with Monero D. Now you can close this, you start your node again, you check whether it works, and you should absolutely be fine. If you're still not fine here, then it's time for the PiNode subreddit. So this is it. Here we have look into normal man's cupboard. Here's PiNode purring like a kitten, hanging around with its little friends down here. Okay, so if you have questions or comments, write a comment down below, or you can visit PiNode subreddit. If you like the video, you can like and of course share. If you want to see more hardware related video of Monero, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for contribution and supporting the network. Monero for the win, guys. See you.